So there we go.
As being outside of humans. I've already conceded if the Earth were here and there were no humans on the Earth, there would not be morality. It takes us here who have compassion.
So
hold on, we have compassion. We prefer pleasure to pain, and we have the capability of recognizing the consequences of our action. And it's these things that make morality even possible.
Okay, so in that case,
so in a sense, this condition defines.
Is morality invented by humans?
In a sense, yeah.
And is it changing?
Yes.
Can truth change?
Can truth change?
Can 2 + 2 = 4 change?
No.
Okay, so morality is not
wrong. Hang on.
Yeah.
The people don't understand what truth is. Okay, they don't understand what any of this means. Because if I tell you it is raining, am I telling the truth? Yes. But if you look outside, it might be the sun that's out. So you will tell me, no, you're wrong. It's not raining. The sun is shining. So your truth is the sun is shining, and mine is that it's raining. But we're both right. So truth is subjective.
Look, this American guy, he talks about compassion and that it's the pleasure and like it's like the hedonism is the base for morality.
The consequences base.
Yeah, and then he asked him like, does this change? And then he said, can truth change? As if truth is fixed, because he has this kind of metaphysical idea of what truth is that. Actually, many Westerners also have, because many Westerners are steeped in Christianity. But if you think about it mathematically, like or not mathematically, but like things that are true in reality can change, and they are still true. So is it, as you said, if it's raining a day, is that true? Yeah, it's true. But another day it's sunning. Does that mean that sunshine and rain is not true? There's a fixed truth about sunshine and rain? No. But this whole argument is just such a it's so
it's hollow.
Yeah,
but there's a mistake there as well, so he jumped. Truth is a whole big topic in and of itself. Like you say, there's different versions, I guess, of truth, in the sense of like philosophers have grouped truth in different ways. So that's not a good word to use. I immediately would ask him, what do you mean by truth? Can you define what you mean by truth? But the bigger thing was, he asked him, can morality change? And because the atheist hasn't got a yardstick to use, his answer must be yes. So if I was speaking to Mohammed, I would be saying to him, the well-being of conscious creatures is the yardstick that I use. Can you tell me, if you think that's not a good yardstick, or you feel that's not a yardstick that we should use, can you give me something else? I say to you that is the best yardstick that we can use, period, bar none. That's my foundation. Now, the way we can measure and how we move towards more well-being for conscious creatures, that will obviously change, as it always has over centuries. But the yardstick itself won't change. But the atheist kind of is all in one here. So he has to admit, yes, well, morality can change. No, morality, the yardstick for morality won't, but morality itself, in the sense of what do we think is right and wrong, will change based on the more knowledge we gain. And how do we gain that knowledge? Through scientific observation, experience, etc., etc.
Yeah. I mean,
let's go on.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're going back to this absolutist thing again. And
yeah, of course.
I'm not,
You want me to prove God?
How about this? Let me say this.
Hang on a second.
Truth has nothing to do with God. Absolutism has nothing to do with God either.
Yes, well, I mean, I'm not looking for somebody to prove God absolutely, because I don't think there's absolute truth, or there's very few of them from what I've looked into in a little bit of philosophy. So there's very few absolute truths, really, generally speaking. So no, I'm not, that was like a red herring. Oh, you want me to prove God absolutely? So that's what I'm going to stick with, absolute, to show that you don't have absolute morality. No, well, I'm not looking for you to prove God absolutely.
I think that you just said the word red herring. That's what he is doing. And he's probably going to do it over and over again.
Yes.
Morality is not true.
In the same way that 2 + 2 = 4 is true.
It's not true. In the same
so you telling your son, don't slap someone in the face, is not truth.
Boy, let's put it this way. It would be hard for me to find a scenario where that would be a poor piece of advice.
Okay, no, but that's
So
your
in
opinion.
a sense, that's true.
Okay, no, in a sense, meaning in my opinion.
This gets back to the thing. It's like me saying something is absolute, and me saying it's
So
ridiculous to believe the contrary.
Yeah.
Yeah, is kind of what I'm talking about.
But you know what I was going to say is that you actually employ something without realizing there's a presupposition, which is a democratic kind of reasoning. Do you realize that?
Of course.
The democratic reasoning.
What? A democratic reasoning?
So he's basically saying to the atheist, what you're doing is you're going with what most people believe is right, and that's what you're going with.
Oh, is that
And
what
of
he
course,
calls democratic?
Yeah. So it's like moral relativism. And Dave's got a comment there, which is coming up shortly in the video anyway, which is he's going to ask him the question now. He goes, okay, well, if you think it's a majority decision, well, how about this? And so you'll ask him that question. But that's what he means by democratic. So if most people believe it's wrong to, hit somebody in the face, is that what you go with? And so he will kind of say, yes, it is. And say, well, okay, well, what about this then? So here we go.
We all are different types of people, and other of us will find slightly different reasons. Some people decide things on power, some people on democracy.
If you're using a democratic reasoning, then do you accept that in 1933 in Germany?
No.
You don't accept what they did was right?
No.
The German people were wrong. The majority of the electorate, they voted for Hitler. Or the Nazi.
Okay, so T.S. Dave put in there, the Nazi Party being democratically elected is nothing to do with the subsequent takeover of the state and the eventual Holocaust. And again, it is a red herring because he's asking him to judge on the people of Germany. Most of the people of Germany weren't involved in the war in the sense of making the decisions and putting the Jews into death camps.
I think that's a real leap to say that the Germans were in favor of, torturing the Jews like that.
I didn't say anything about Jews.
I would concede that.
I didn't say anything about Jews.
There could have been a significant portion of them that thought that was okay.
I didn't say anything about Jews. I'm saying that 1933, if you look at the election results, democracy dictated that the Nazi Party should be in power. Is that correct then?
Is that correct?
Is that true?
I mean, it was a poor decision.
It was a poor decision. In that case, then you can't use a democratic reasoning.
It's not democratic.
Yeah, you said.
Okay, so there he has talked about it in that way.
Oh, what an idiot.
Okay, I think he's going all over the show there. Because the German people in 1933 voted for the Nazi Party, it's wrong. Well, yes, in hindsight, it's wrong, but at the time, they thought it was the right thing.
Exactly, it was.
Well, exactly. People could say the same thing about Trump. Those people that voted for Trump thought it was the right thing now. Yes. Time will tell. History will show whether that's right or wrong.
It's easy.
But that's not an argument against what he's talking about here. Yeah, that was a bad sort of, I'm not sure why he went there. Obviously, what he's attempting to do here is to show that, if your morality is based on what the majority of people say or what the majority of people believe, that's problematic, which I do agree with, at least to some degree.
Before the majority of us believe in this, but in every context.
Yeah, but that's kind of unfailing over the test of time.
What do you mean by that?
I just said, name me a scenario in which case that wouldn't be a good piece of advice, and you said there isn't.
What I'm saying to you, no, I didn't say that. I said that if you're using a democratic reasoning.
Okay, these are different pieces of,
Can you choose that? Can you prove that democracy is an ultimate truth?
Of how much evidence we have for something. Is Hitler
ultimate truth? Again.
Please, what is democratic reasoning? What is that? If you use democratic reasoning, then you should like Hitler because he was democratic elected.
Well, that's his argument. That's kind of his argument, isn't it?
Yeah, but
but nobody knew that at the time.
Dave is making the point. They love making the numbers. So why is it then so important how many Muslims there are?
I mean,
what is that in relation to?
This kind of reasoning is so low level. I don't know.
Well, Islam is so popular that 1.5 billion Muslims think it's the best. It's the ultimate truth. This is what they're always saying. So if 1.6 billion Muslims say this, there must be something to it.
Yeah, well, he would agree with that, wouldn't he?
Well, he should, yeah. Oh, what an idiot.
I was going to say something there. I lost it for a sec. So Davis said here, ask what is the Islamic position on modern morality dilemma? Stem cells research. I think, Dave, actually on stem cell research, they're okay with that. It's the Christians that have the issue with that. As far as I'm aware, when I listened to a bit on that from Sam Harris, etc., there was a bit about this stem cells.
Embryonic stem
and
cells.
Christians are. Say again, Christians are against that because they believe
the Christians. I don't know if.
Yeah.
There's
I don't think the
any
Muslims got a
fatwa
problem with stem
about
cells. I'm not entirely
embryonic
sure. I can
stem
ask them.
I'm pretty sure the Prophet didn't mention embryonic stem cells.
No, the point.
I'm sure they could find a way to make a verse look like it did.
Muslims, number one, can't find anything about stem cells in any of the texts. They don't really understand it, and those who do understand are not really fundamentalist Muslims. So a Muslim will not understand that what you are actually doing is you can create human flesh, human limbs, human all sorts of things using stem cells. They don't understand that this is an act of creation now by humans. If they were to understand that, they would quickly find something against it.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Yeah. All right, let's carry on.
Is Hitler going to be a good leader if we elect him? I mean, you would have to say you don't really know, but
I have to say, this is I respect you in a sense because you've been candid with me, but I have to be honest here. The truth must come out. Yeah, my truth. I personally believe you are employing an incredible double standard, an absolutely incredible one. Why? Because when it came to talking about the fine tuning, and when we talk about the probability, which is literally impossible to believe that the universe came about as a result of random forces.
Okay, we won't go there. We won't go there today. We'll leave the universe for the moment. Let's leave that just for now.
My goodness.
Let's carry on.
You said, well, we don't know. But when it came to something which is almost purely subjective, which cannot be proven.
What's that?
There's you in the background.
Oh, okay.
Objectively, and which the idea of someone slapping someone else as a bad thing, although you cannot prove it, you accept it. So it seems like with subjective things that you cannot prove, with no probabilistic
I made
reasoning,
a distinction when we started this.
with no probabilistic
Proving
reasoning.
things and something having a fantastic amount of evidence are two different things.
Okay, so what has more evidence? The fine tuning of the universe, or slapping someone in the face is a bad thing?
Slapping someone in the face.
There's Ike.
That is the most ridiculous statement.
Wait, what did
Okay,
it say?
so let me just rewind that a little bit. Let me go back a little bit there if I can. Just bring this back a little bit.
Probabilistic
Proving
reasoning.
things and something having a fantastic amount of evidence are two different things.
Okay, so what has more evidence? The fine tuning of the universe, or slapping someone in the face is a bad thing?
Slapping someone in the face.
That is the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard any human being.
Wait. Slapping anyone in the face is bad ethics. That's more evidence. Is that the claim?
No, which is more evidence? It's a poorly phrased question. I'm not sure what he means by which is more evidence.
I think
fine tuning of the universe or slapping somebody in the face.
I mean, he thinks that there is a lot of evidence for fine tuning of the universe, which
is wrong.
Yes, we talk about that another show. We could do an entire show just on that.
And then there is more evidence that slapping someone in the face is bad ethics. I mean,
he said somebody both in the face.
Even that is wrong.
That was a poorly phrased question, and although I think the atheist guy did answer correctly. Obviously, slapping somebody in the face is more evidence. You can see it happen, they can feel it, etc., etc. So, but it was the question was poorly phrased anyway. I'd be going,
it depends on the situation also. Like, say, by slapping someone in the face, you prevent the Holocaust.
Exactly.
Then, well, in that situation, it's probably the opposite. But he is.
Yeah, but what I think he was talking about is more towards what is true. Is it true, or is it objectively true that the universe is fine-tuned, or is it objectively true that when you slap somebody, it's bad? I think that's what he really meant to ask, but he asked it very poorly. Yeah. All right, let's carry on. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer.
Do you know how can you prove that? I'm going to end with this.
I said we were talking about the elephant in the tail. It's just like these are things I know about. We shouldn't hit each other.
How do you know that?
Because I live on the earth.
In
if
that
I
case,
get hit in the face,
so is it predisposed in you to believe that?
Huh?
Is it a predisposition?
I don't think so. I mean,
So how did it come? How did it get there?
Huh?
Was it is it nature?
No, this is where I.
Is it nature or nurture?
You were honest
Are
in
you
saying
born?
how ridiculous you think I am. I'm going to be honest in saying how ridiculous I think some of your things are.
Like what?
It's pretty common to say that hitting someone in the face is, not only is a bad thing to do.
So what if it's
all
common?
of us would say this,
It's common
and
to
you're
say
coming
that-
to me like I'm saying something, like
No,
I've
no,
just
no, my friend.
snatched
I'm
something
saying
out of
that
the
in
air.
Germany, it
It
was
doesn't
common to
have
be
any basis
anti-Semitic.
to it at all.
In Germany,
It's had
it was-
a basis over
Okay,
the entire
now hold on.
existence of
No,
humans.
hold on. If you're talking about
I mean,
commonality,
it's one of the most fundamental
Well,
things
if
about
you're talk-
behavior
if
that
you're-
we can talk about.
you talk about-
That's why I would
okay.
say, what's more likely, don't punch someone in the face, or
So,
whatever has
if you're
happened
talking-
cosmologically
if you're
out there
talking-
somewhere,
Yeah.
and things that I can't describe.
And now
That's
slap
why
him in the
I choose
face.
this one.
Say again?
And now slap him in the face.
Yes, just to see if it is true or not.
I was going to say that if you're talking about commonality or what's commonplace in a society, then
Yeah.
you have to go back to the German example.
No, we
No,
don't.
you don't.
Okay,
That's not common. It's not common for people to elect Hitler.
No, it was common. That happened.
It happened once.
It happened
It was a
once,
mistake.
and
It wouldn't be done again.
My question to you is this: but it's still common. If you look at the history of anti-Semitism in the West,
Yeah.
it was common to be anti-Semitic in Germany. Yes or no?
No.
I imagine it was.
I don't think the majority of Germans were anti-Semitic. I
Exactly.
think Hitler and his
No,
crew
they were
were
not.
anti-Semitic. It may have been that the propaganda got them more anti-Semitic as time went on,
Exactly.
but I don't think
Well,
Germans
this
woke
has-
up and went, "Oh, we're anti-Semitic today."
It has nothing to do with that. I mean, you can. There are. I mean, the majority of
Well, you
people
see, the
can be
biggest
wrong
problem-
about things. They can do bad.
Well, exactly.
Actually, they do that.
They can do things that they don't know that it's wrong at the time. But here's the biggest thing. Mohammed can throw out claims and stuff like that, and it's very hard in the moment, especially speaking live like this, to go and look this up. You've got to get into the habit, and this is, I think, the only thing that I could say for Shabir, if I had to, give him some credit, is to, the moment somebody makes a claim in your mind, you go, okay, can you provide the evidence for that? Can you provide the evidence for that? It sounds like a broken record, but Mohammed is doing exactly that. Well, Mohammed, can you provide the evidence that the majority of the German people at that time were anti-Semitic, especially when Hitler was first elected or prior to Hitler being elected? Could it be that the propaganda that Hitler pumped out, much like the propaganda that's being pumped out today, may have made more people anti-Semitic? That's possible, but they weren't anti-Semitic to begin with.
Yeah, that's a good
Can
point.
you provide evidence for that?
Yeah, it's a good point that people should respond more often with, I don't know, I don't care, or why do you believe that?
Yeah, show me the evidence. What reasons have you got for saying
Yeah.
that? Can you show me some studies?
Yeah,
some
that's a very good point.
historic
Yes.
thing. Otherwise, these guys just throw out claims like this. And if you throw out 5 claims in like 5 seconds, it's much harder to try and, go back and look them up. So, just wait and say, okay, well, have you got evidence for that, and that? Because it's much easier. Now they have to provide something rather than just throwing out a claim as they do here. I mean, he's just throwing this out that all Germans were anti-Semitic or majority of the West. I mean, where does he come with this nonsense?
Yeah.
Some, yeah.
What's up on?
Yeah. In Europe, there probably still is some, yeah.
Yes, that was common in the 1930s, yeah?
There probably still is common, but not to the same level.
If your argument is that which is common must be true, evidently, then anti-Semitism was true.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
It's just a contradiction then. It's
No,
just a
no,
contradiction.
No, it's not.
It really is.
Anti-Semitism was true.
Now we got on to
True.
whatever's common is true is what we go with from reality. That's not what the guy was saying originally anyway. He wasn't saying what's common is what we go with. So maybe he's confusing, or maybe he's conflating common with the majority moral view.
His assumption is that being democratic is to think that the majority of the populace is always right. That's not the same thing. I mean, you can be for like democracy, or like the majority should rule, or the majority vote should be. I mean, you can be for that system without agreeing with most of the people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. And there's a differentiation between what the populace believes and what the government enacts as policies for the country. So it's the same here in the UK or any other country.
Like the Karl Popper said. What?
I was just going to say, there's the difference between what the populace believes and what the country's leaders do. So I don't think everybody in Saudi Arabia is, a fundamentalist nutcase Islamic person who wants to chop off hands and feet. In fact, I met a few of them at Speaker's Corner. A young man who said to me, a lot of young people are questioning this religion. You'll be surprised. It never gets into the media and stuff like that. And I went, wow, that's good to hear. So there's a lot of people who don't believe in these sort of things, but the government is what sort of is shown as what the country is, like Turkey.
Yeah, I know Saudi Arabia. I think most people.
What did Karl Popper say?
No, but he has this like the good thing about democracy is like, I don't remember the exact quote, but it's not necessarily that the population will elect good rulers or they will make good decisions. It's just that it's easy to correct bad choices. You see what I'm saying? It's the correction process rather that is the good thing about democracy. So there's nothing said that. And what's interesting, why I use Karl Popper as an example, because he called himself something like liberal democracy. He was for liberal democracy.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. No, but what I mean, you don't have, you can be for democracy or liberal democracy as a political system without thinking that it will that the majority of the people will make good decisions. Maybe they will make bad decisions, but it's just that all the other ones is so bad, and it's much better to have a self-correcting process that can get rid of bad leaders quickly without bloody revolutions and war.
Because your argument is that is your argument.
No. You could ask me. Why don't you ask me the same question that I asked you? Is like, why is punching someone in the bad face? Why is that a bad argument on my side?
I'm just saying.
If you ask me why is electing Hitler a bad thing to do, I can explain you exactly what happened. We wouldn't do it again.
It's not. I'm just saying to you that
it's not empirically tested over time. It was tested once and it failed. Thrown out. Not part of morality. Not part of good decision making.
Someone in the face
is bad.
How do you know? How can you prove that?
I don't know, go try it, see how it works.
Very easily. The well-being of conscious creatures was negatively affected by Hitler's rule, therefore bad. End of story.
Yeah. And
not
slapping
difficult.
somebody in the face trying.
But it is more difficult if you don't have a yardstick to use. That's my point. So this gentleman, because he doesn't have the yardstick, he's kind of floundering, in my opinion, a little bit here, because he can't, every time Mohammed asks him, how is this objectively bad? You don't hear him say, well, Mohammed, it's objectively bad because X, Y, Z. You never hear him say that. So he kind of brings up his own opinion, which Mohammed keeps going, hey, well, that's your own opinion.
Yeah, but
he goes, no, but it's so he's kind of right, but he just doesn't have a strong enough foundation because everything he's saying is right, but he just doesn't have a way to ground it.
I think he has no experience with these people at Speaker's Corner.
He's been there, but I've seen him a number of times. I don't know how often he's come, but I have seen him. It's not the first time he's been there. So I don't know if he's a regular per se or how long he's been coming, but I have seen him on a couple of occasions at least. So he's not a new guy there. But the moral argument is one of the go-to arguments that these guys use. That the universe, fine-tuning, the teleological. There's basic ones that are not difficult to refute if you just do a little bit of work in them. All right, let's carry on and hear what he has to say.
No. So I'm just saying, how can you prove that as an objective
but this is what I mean.
The thing is, you have to be consistent, my friend. You really do.
And you have to be consistent by not going after things that you know are self-evident. If you agree with me,
I can say the same thing about.
Why are you?
Can I say that?
Yeah, these type of
how's it self-evident?
Philosophical trifles are just not interesting. Can you absolutely prove that?
Can I say something?
Again. I said from the beginning, there are certain things I can't absolutely prove, but there are things that are fantastic evidence for. Punching someone in the face, being good behavior among a group of social creatures is not a good idea.
Why?
The evidence is fantastic.
What's the evidence?
Number one, it'll hurt you.
So what?
Huh?
Okay, that's the presupposition.
And you might do it back to me. I don't want it to be done. If we all go around punching each other in the face, it's going to be a horrible place to live.
So what?
If everyone in Speaker's Corner punches people.
You see what he's doing there. I mean, it is kind of funny in a way, but Mohammed is like a dog with a bone here, and so you need to have a consistent answer to stop the bone. Otherwise, he just keeps going.
Yes.
Well, how can you say that's wrong?
He's interrupting and he's pushing him further and further. Okay, how's this? No, you are the one who needs to provide the evidence.
Yeah, but to be honest, I mean, this guy is on the defending position at the moment. He hasn't gone after Mohammed. So Mohammed is, which is what they seem to love because they're so used to defending. So I think when they get a chance like this to attack another position, it's a great thing for them because now they don't have to defend their own position. They can attack somebody else's. And so, of course, he's going for it here.
Yeah, he needs to learn.
Punch each other.
Okay, one question. Ken. Yes, fair enough. Ken, how can you prove the word bad exists?
Yeah, see, I'm not using bad in terms of theological concept.
No, I'm not talking about philosophically.
The consequences are not desirable. We do not want them. They're not good for society.
Consequences are not desirable.
They're not good for any objective we're trying to reach as humans.
Okay, what's the objective that you're trying to use? Reach.
We want to. I mean, I think before, it's like pleasure is preferable to pain.
Okay,
I think this is as base as you can make about.
So your argument.
This is again something I started. I know that's a presupposition, but
so
it's a
you
really
believe it.
small
So would you say you're a consequentialist?
No.
So what are you then?
Okay, I'd be interested in the comments and for you guys to answer me this. I'm not sure that there's any human on the planet who understands what that means that isn't at least partially a consequentialist.
Exactly.
In other words, we all, to some degree or other, more or less, believe that consequences, that the consequences of our actions are what defines morality in some sense. Now, I know there's other moralities, deontology, et cetera, out there, but I'd be interested in the comments or if any of you guys said, no, consequentialists, the consequence of our actions have nothing to do with my morality. I'd be very interested in anybody who says that.
Yeah.
But consequentialism, the term has got a bad rap because there are examples where there's some head scratches. Well, if you know the consequence of action, can you judge whether it's right or wrong? Now, if this was put to me, I go, do you know what? Consequentialism or any other moral, ethical standard, none of them are perfect, but we use them all to some degree, more or less, like deontology with not ethics or goals. There's another term for it. But basically, there's different versions of ethics that we have, and so all of us, to some degree, use consequentialism. Maybe not. We don't use the word necessarily, but we think about the action, which is exactly what he's talking about: hitting somebody in the face. Anyway, let's go on.
So you just live in life, right? Just following the herd. I don't
follow the herd.
No, you are.
You know by talking to me, I'm not a herd follower.
No, but I'll tell you something, my friend. Because what it is you are. You're following popular culture without having any reasoning.
I would say you're following the herd being a Muslim.
No, but I've given you questions, critical questions, which you haven't been able to give me consistent results for.
Yeah, and I said at the beginning, you and I are laying in the same bed when it comes down to this because you're attacking the bedrock of my decision making, and I would attack yours in the saying that you're pinning your hopes on the presupposition that you're in contact with someone who has 100.
Hello there.
No.
That's the first thing you stop him. What your presupposition that God exists is based on evidence? Please provide it.
That's a lie.
In the history of the world, nobody's been able to do that. Otherwise, we'd all be, to some degree, believers. I'd be a very unhappy believer, but I'd be a believer because I have no choice if I'm intellectually honest. So this would be the time for him now to get off the defensive and get on the defensive and go, okay, you've just said this. Please give me the evidence.
Exactly.
100% of the answer.
It's evidence.
That is an absolutely massive
But that's
claim.
proven by what I was just talking to you about. If you take my line of argument, which is not, we haven't even referred to scripture, because you said to me before that it's all based on scripture. It's not based on scripture. What I'm saying is, if you take my line of argument, there's evidence to suggest that God exists, which is the following, which I told you. Yeah.
It's a hypothesis. I agreed. It's a possible hypothesis.
Everything requires some level of faith.
It could be false.
Everything.
It could easily be false.
Everything requires some level of faith. Everything. Even your own existence. To believe in your own existence requires some level of faith.
No, it's not faith.
Okay, yeah, this is where they get onto this, isn't it? They use the word faith very differently than us as non-believers. We believe in, good evidence. Can the evidence change or be wrong? Sure. But that's not the same as faith. Faith is belief without evidence, essentially. And so there's definitely, that's not the same thing. I don't believe something without some kind of evidence or good reasons, whereas the belief God, they think they do. And of course, that's why they're trying to equate faith. We have faith and so do they. That one particularly irks me because I think they know that's not true, but they like to think that it's true because then we're on even footing. It doesn't make them look so bad.
Very small amount.
No, that's in your opinion. Some philosophers took this very seriously. Seriously. I mean, I'm saying to you that, as I said to you before, you require to take rationalism and empiricism. All of those things have to be taken as for granted as
working,
presuppositions. Right? No, but that's the idea. It's working. It's not. It's something. Just because something is working doesn't mean it's true. Doesn't mean it's your experience that's working.
Now, the evidence again. The evidence is fantastic that it's working.
Okay, so I would say
it's fantastic.
I would say
that no evidence.
I would say the evidence. Would you say that the evidence for fine-tuning of the universe being set by an entity is fantastic?
No.
Okay. In that way, I would say
the fact that they're constants. Yeah. The evidence for them being constants is
in that way,
fantastic.
I'll say one more thing before we leave. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'll stop it there because we're going to go into the cosmological here. Just to finish off that last little bit there. He made a good point, the atheist. The guy said, you know, do you think there's overwhelming evidence for the fine-tuning? And he correctly said, no, I think there's overwhelming evidence for the constants. That's a crucial thing. And I think if anybody has this argument, it's something that I will remember when I have the conversation as well, is to basically say, yes, there's overwhelming evidence that seems to suggest that there are constants in the universe. That does not imply that they are finely tuned, because what does finely tuned mean? You will say that it's finely tuned for life. What sort of life? Human life, life on this planet. How do you know that there's not life elsewhere? And what do you mean by life? If the constants were changed, on what basis can you say that life of some kind would not evolve? And the moment you can then give me some hypothesis that shows that with the constants changed, that some other life that we can't at the moment imagine, like, you know, machines or whatever, couldn't evolve, then you've got a point. Up until this point, no, you don't. Or we can say that the constants themselves are fine-tuned.
I mean, I think physicists can say that it's very unlikely that life will evolve in a universe where the constants are set in a certain way. But it's quite hard
to know
to
what life is. We don't know what the criteria is for life to exist. Could life exist in, you know, within a universe that has different constants to what they do now? How can somebody demonstrate that life can't exist? And the moment you accept that life could exist with some other version,
it's hard to know. But I think you can tweak the constants in such a way that, like, it wouldn't work, or it most likely wouldn't work. But even if say that it's only in 1% of the constants, and it doesn't have to be the constants as in our universe. Maybe it's like, say that in if we call our universe as constant, we call it 3.5, for example. I don't know, but we just call it that. And maybe 4 and 4.5 can't give rise to life, but 5.3 can also give rise to life, and also 8.7, but also 1.4 can also give. You know what I'm saying? Some of the
challenge is, I don't think
can give
we
rise
will
to
never know, because we don't have any other universes that we can investigate, and we don't know what other sort of life is possible with different constants.
No, we won't know for sure, but I think we can, with quite good reason, suspect that if we tweak the constants in a certain way, there is very low likelihood that anything can
on what basis would you make that statement? How would you be able to demonstrate that? Because if you said that to me, I'd say to you, okay, Abu, how do you demonstrate that?
I can't be sure, but I mean, like, you can demonstrate. Okay, I have to think about that, but I think that's
the correct answer is I can't be sure. In which case,
no, that is, of course I can't be sure, but there are many things I can't be sure of. That.
Yeah, but you said there's good reasons to think that if the constants were changed, that life couldn't evolve, or it's unlikely that life could evolve. And my question would be to anybody who says that: on what basis do you make that conclude? What basis do you come to that conclusion? How do you know life? Because you need to know what the parameters are for life, and all we know about is the limited amount of life on this planet. We don't know what else is out there in the universe, or what could have, what is, or can evolve with different constants, because we only think about it for us. You know, that's, and the analogy I think is
some kind of process of natural selection. I think is universal. I believe.
No, we don't know that. I mean, we only know that on Earth. No, exactly. I think that's the end of that.
We don't have to go into that, but anyway, the point is this fine-tuning thing. Even if it's only 1% of all the possible fine-tuning, so even a percent of a percent of a percent of a percent, it doesn't matter, because they're in a vast multiverse, there will always be some tiny fraction of all the possible universes where the constants are just right.
Yeah, so life will evolve somewhere. But the real answer is we don't know. But getting back to the sort of main thrust of his argument and theists in general is they require certainty. And if you can't give them certainty, which they pretty much know we as non-believers can't, then that sort of gives them license to, believe whatever or to assert something as more reasonable because we don't know for sure. And I think that's a huge mistake, which obviously, I do my best to point out, but that sort of goes over people's head. I think if you are a theist and somebody can't give you a concrete argument against your position, and you haven't done any sort of skeptical thinking, you will just go, well, my position is right. You can't defeat my position. Well, my position is right then. Till you can defeat my position, even if I don't have a good reasons myself, my position is right. So you've got to defeat my weak position. Otherwise, I'm going to hold on to it.